Welcome to the World Gaming Trade Show. I am your host, Jeremy, aka your in-game boss, aka your retro activist, and all the way from Indiana from the Game Addict podcast, Mr. Brendan.
What is going on, my man? How are you?
I'm doing well. It has been quite a bit of a holiday. You know, Halloween, Thanksgiving's coming up. By the time people listen to this, Thanksgiving's over, so hopefully everybody ate well, felt well, slept well. So, and everything like that. Are you a Thanksgiving person? You like Thanksgiving?
I love Thanksgiving, and I just got off the phone with my mom last night and said, hey, I don't think we're going to do anything this year with everything kind of heating back up. I think everybody who hears my voice knows exactly what I'm talking about. We don't have to go into it. We know what's going on. We know how it is out there. And I hope everybody who did do Thanksgiving stays safe and everybody's okay, because the last thing we need is for anybody to end up in a place where they're not going to have another Thanksgiving, and we don't want anybody to have that. So I talked to my mom and I said, I love you. You know, we've had a hard year, but I think we need to wait until it's a little bit better, you know, until we can, ensure. And if that, it doesn't matter if we have a January, February, March, Thanksgiving. It don't matter, because we're going to make some awesome ass food, and we're going to sit down and we're going to enjoy each other's company. And I would much rather do that when I feel better about it. This year's been a hard year for a lot of people, and I understand why people would still want to go see their family, because at times like these, you want to cling tighter to your family. And I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm. Get that comfort food with comfort, family and such. Yeah.
And then so many people have lost people this year. It's been a hard year on everybody. So it's like, we're not out of the woods yet, hopefully sooner than later.
So Brandon, I know that every mother in the world has that special dish they do for Thanksgiving. Mine is broccoli cheese casserole. My mama makes it so good with a nice pecan pie. So my question for you is, what is your mom's specialty for Thanksgiving and the dessert you enjoy at Thanksgiving?
So I love my mom's green bean casserole.
Okay.
First and foremost, I love a green bean casserole. She's also one that always makes deviled eggs for Thanksgiving, like an hors d'oeuvre type deal.
Yeah. My mom does too. Yeah.
And so, back when I lived at home, I would be one of the, I'd be sneaking them, She's sitting there making them for everybody, and I'm just like, oh, hey, hard at work, Mom, huh? Yeah, get out of here, But as far as dessert goes, my grandma made this lemon dessert, and you would make a pie crust on the bottom, and you do lemon pudding on top of that, and you'd cover it with Cool Whip with some chopped walnuts on top of that, and it is just so good. It's so simple, but it's all in the way that you make that pie crust, because it's like you make it from scratch. You put it in the oven, you cook it a little bit, and you let it cool down, and then you put the pudding and all that stuff, and then you chill it for a while.
You see, when it comes to dessert, I don't really care about the fancy stuff. Simple is always, to me, the best.
Sure.
Just make it simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and see, the thing about that is, for years, so my grandma has, I haven't had that for years because she hasn't cooked in so long, and then of course she passed this year. But no one else has taken up that mantle of making that dessert, at our family gatherings, and I'm a little bewildered by this and hurt, because it's been a long time. Me and my cousin Todd used to almost get in fist fights over this stuff, and we would hurry to get done eating before the other guy. And there would be threats levied. It's like, you better slow down. I ain't slowing down, man. I'm getting in there for you. No, you will not. And then, of course, my Uncle Steve pipes in. There's a certain portion of it without the walnuts, because he doesn't like walnuts. You better not take any of that. I'm like, I'll take it if it's left. We're about to throw down. No, but my mom told me the secret, because I tried making it once and it just didn't turn out the same, and it was because I didn't make that pie crust right.
Oh,
so now I know that old country cooking way of making that pie crust. I'm like, I think this year I'm gonna take my crack at it.
Okay. Yeah. My family's very small. With that, we don't get a lot of family together. We're really just me and my mom, my brother, and my dad, and we're just simple eating. And then It's mostly, I think, the highlight of our Thanksgiving is just a conversation around the circle. Like, my dad is a PhD in English, and he knows a lot of stories. He knows a lot that's going on in his life, so he likes to talk about those stories. My mom tells him to go to sleep because he's tired. But we also play a lot of board games after we eat. I don't know, like,
Cool.
do you guys do any activities after you guys eat, or you kind of just chill and just talk it up?
Okay, so like we're not doing the as I said, I told my mom we're not doing anything, but like before my grandma passed, my mom's whole side of the family would gather, and we would break up into little groups. Like there would be like the board game group, there would be the Black Friday ad looking through group, you know, and then there would be like the poker table group. You know, like a lot of the older guys, they bust out this big tub of quarters. And you'd buy your way in, and you play, you know, Texas Hold'em.
Oh, okay.
They sit there and they play, and yeah. So like, if you want to play some board games, like there'd be some more kid friendly ones. You'd have some other ones, and then it's like, you know, go over there and see what's on sale tomorrow. You know.
Okay. All right. Well, on top of that, like I said, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I hope Black Friday treats you well. Play safe. Hopefully, you know, you're ordering stuff online instead of going into the stores. You know, stay safe and whatnot. And also, too, by the time you heard this, my birthday has passed by one day. So I will be 36. My birthday's November 29th.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. And so with that, you know, you can always leave a comment. You know, say happy birthday to me on the episode and whatnot on Facebook, on our In-Game Boss program page on Twitter and Facebook. But this is the World Gaming Trade Show. This is what you came here for. You're here to hear what games we're going to talk about today. And what we do about those games is we pick games that you never heard about or you haven't heard about in a long time. And how does that work? We pick them, we put them out on display for the showcase, and we talk about what developers we like to see, you know, put them on the map. You know, our last episode, we talked about Writing Out of Stories. We talked about Def Jam Vendetta. We have done Musashi. We did Wing Commander. We did Gex. You know, there's a lot, and there's plenty of episodes to backtrack. You know, wonderful picks, wonderful conversation. But this one here is interesting because we both picked something that were really old school. This is more of an NES episode. Yeah. We got 2 NES games for you. And it's funny because I didn't know he was going to pick an NES game either. And that's the beauty of it. We don't know our picks, and we don't know what developers we picked for these. So it's a surprise for both of us. And I don't know what year both our picks are, but they're more felt like the launch games of the console we're talking about here. I want to say you can look it up and see for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up really quick because I want to say that they were pretty close.
Yeah, but on top of that, you know, I love the NES. There were so many memories off the NES. I mean, even Thanksgiving. Like after Thanksgiving, I would go sit at the front of the TV with some friends or my brother, and we would play NES up on there and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But Brendan, I think you picked one of the most popular ones, but people are not aware of this popular one because it was attached to another popular one, per se. You can get them separate, but it's very rare to find it separate by itself.
Sure. Well, yes, it is. I mean, it was released by itself, but a lot of people, and probably the majority of gamers back then, got this game as a pack-in with the double lineup. And the game that I'm talking about is Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
And Duck Hunt did come out on April 21st, 1984.
Okay.
So and it uses the Zapper, the NES Zapper. And I don't know if you guys know the logistics or science behind the Zapper. They don't work on monitor televisions.
No.
They will not work because what it does is that it uses IR lights along with that style of like television, the old like tube TVs. They use it because they have glass and it is projected. It uses the IR light and it communicates with the projection and it blacks out pixels. So when the screen flashes, that's what it's doing, you know, and that's how they can tell where you're shooting or not shooting. But anyways, no, this game was a classic, and it utilized that Zapper gun. Now, one thing that Nintendo was really, really big on back then especially for the North American audience, they were trying to make the NES as different from a traditional console as possible because the video game crash had happened, right before that era, and they were trying to launch it over here. And over in Japan, the Famicom came out, and it was a pretty standardized kind of console. But over here, it was packaged more like a multi-use, like toy type deal. You had the zapper, you had to rob the robot, a lot of different you had the runner pad, a lot of different stuff that they would put out for it. But the zapper, there was a few games that utilized the zapper, and Duck Hunt is the most famous, most popular for that. Where you're sitting there and you got all these shots. I think it's like 10 shots or something, and these ducks will fly around, and you're trying to shoot them, and you either hit them or you don't, and that damn dog laughs at you. Sometimes you want to shoot the dog because he keeps laughing at you because you keep missing. In fact, I want to say there was an old Flash game way back in the day on Newgrounds where you could actually shoot the dog. But no, and then there was another mode in there where it was like clay pigeons, where because the Duck Hunt, they would kind of fly around, and it was seemingly random, just like a couple, one or two, they would fly off. But with the clays, it would just shoot it out, just like you would go to a shooting range. And
I always liked the noise. It was like
so no, when you hit me up with your pick, I'll be honest with you, and I had a couple in mind, and I'm like, your pick threw me so off guard. I wasn't ready for it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll raise you this one. Have fun with this one. Because you told me, hey man, have fun with this one. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna have another one to have fun with. We went a little serious. We did some Star Wars stuff. We've done all kinds of different games here on the show. And these two sets, especially this one, we're just gonna have some fun with it with Duck Hunt. Where I went with it, I didn't think too hard on it, and I thought about what's coming up. Because there's another game that got released probably, give or take, about 12, 13 years later on the N64 that isn't Duck Hunt. But in reality, it's not that far from it.
Okay.
And not from a just sitting still perspective. I'm talking about Pokemon Snap.
I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there. Go on. I knew it.
Okay, so Pokemon Snap, you're on rails, right? You're on rails. You're in this little cart, and there's little Pokemons running around, and you got a camera, and you're playing as the dude from the anime whose sole goal in life. I wish I could have such simple. Man, this kid has made it already. He's gonna take the most awesome pictures of Pokemon. I mean, you know what? Everyone, follow your dreams. Do you, okay? This kid, he's out there. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with Professor Oak. I'm going to ride in his little trolleys, and I'm going to get these awesome pictures of these Pokemons. And of course, you roll along, and you get scored based off different positions. You can throw stuff out there, maybe you can do poses. But you're taking pictures. You're not shooting them. I mean, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it? It's just like, bam! Mr. Mime. Putting his hands up, and boom!
Too bad it's not the camera from Fatal Frame that just takes your soul.
Well, Mr. Mime already doesn't have a soul.
There
so he's
you
like,
go.
oh no, what do I do? No, but more recently, they are releasing a new Pokemon Snap game that got announced. I want to say it was like this year or like sometime last year. And so they're going to do a new version of it. So I thought that Bandai Namco could take advantage of that to do with whatever they're making. I've only seen some trailers, and I assume it's going to be on rails. You can do some on rail stuff with it too, but you can also have like an old school sit style with the Duck Hunt, because you're going to be using the Joy-Cons to play the game that way, and they're going to use the motion, and they're going to track where it's at based off of motion, not necessarily the IR, because what they did do Duck Hunt on the Wii U for the Virtual Console, and it was completely different. It even had a reticle on screen. It completely took me back. It took me aback because I wasn't expecting that. But they had to find a way to reverse engineer that game to be able to make it playable on newer televisions because of the old IR light. So I think it would be cool if you did, because one thing, like going duck hunting, you're in a boat. So if you're like going to be on a track, take a picture of Pokemon, you could be in a boat kind of rolling down the river a little bit, and then ducks flying up, and you're like, you got to try and get it. So it almost mixes together Big Game Hunter, some of those games, with like a more like childish or like a more cutesy type game.
Okay.
Keep it cute, not too violent, because it's duck hunt, man. It's duck hunt. I mean, you're killing ducks, but that damn dog is still gonna laugh at you. That's got to happen. He has got to, and it's got to have the same like annoying little laugh. It has to, and it has to, of course, because it's going to be somewhat retro and it's going to be somewhat new. So you can have a couple different game modes. As I said, you can have like the boat mode. You can have the classic mode. You have the clay pigeon mode. You get creative with some of these different modes that you can have. And yeah, it's not going to be a big AAA $60 game. Absolutely not. Like $20-$30 at the most. I mean, Nintendo they'll probably do 30. Come on now.
They don't bring prices down.
No, they do not. They do not. Black Friday. The Zelda game that came out last year, that's a remake of Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations. It's going to be $30 this year. Just on Black Friday, though.
That's a steal, weirdly enough.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you've been wanting to play it and you're like, man, 60 is just too steep, or 50, hey, 30 is not a bad price for it, I would say. Yeah. But no, do about $20-$30 for this game. Do a limited physical run for the collectors because it's duck hunt. Maybe do like a reversible cover on the Switch case to make it look like the old school NES case, something like that. And then, I mean, I think it would be kind of neat because this is Nintendo and they're kind of quirky like this because when they did when they launched the NES channel or whatever it is called, like on the Switch, if you're a Switch Pro member, you could go online and buy the NES controllers that are Joy-Cons.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And they did the same thing with the Super Nintendo one as well. If you're an online member subscriber, only the people who are subscribed can buy these. How cool would it be if they had a Switch wireless zapper to be able that's compatible with it? I think that would be cool.
Okay. All right.
So that's just some of the ideas I thought of for Duck Hunt. As I said, keep it pretty simple, but you have a couple different game modes. You can get a developer who's already working on something pretty similar, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to kind of like, hey, let's put a small team over here. We've already got the basis drawn out for what we're doing, and we'll just have fun with some of these old school game modes.
And you think Bandai Namco is the best choice for that? Okay.
Well, they are the ones doing the new Pokemon Snap, so
okay.
I figured they already. With them making the new game, they already have a whole engine set up because they're got to make it completely from scratch to make it like the old Pokemon Snap game. And the first thing I thought of when I thought of Duck Hunt was the Pokemon Snap because it is a first person and you're moving it around. But in this case, it would be more of a like you're in the boat, you're kind of going along, and you can have range of motion too for this new mode, just kind of like a Pokemon Snap. So it does play a lot differently in that mode. It plays more like a Pokemon Snap where you're actually shooting. But in the classic mode, it plays like classic Duck Hunt. That's why I think it's important to have multi-levels of this where it's not just a new one. But since they would already have that basis made up for that new engine, you can just, all right, we're going to put a Duck Hunt skin on this. We're actually going to shoot some animals or shoot some cartoon animals and have that damn dog. And he's going to be in there in that boat laughing at you. And then I just think it'd be that dog. I have on my wall. I have like 4 amiibo. Okay, and because I never got big into amiibo. I got like Sonic, Mega Man, Mario, and Cloud from
Okay.
But when they released the Duck Hunt dog. I'm like, oh, I want that because it's the damn dog. That dog has been the bane of my existence for like 30 years. Okay, I love dogs, but that. It's just the fact that you cannot get any payback or vengeance against this dog, and he just laughs at you for failing.
I know, right? He's such especially the part where like he comes out of the bushes and you hear that music, do 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 do, like that noise, and it's like, yeah. You got one, then if you miss, he's just like, it's more like, yeah, it's like that. It is like. It's like, well, you can't hold it in?
Come on, man. Help me out.
I gave you a bone before this ride. Anyways. No, I think we're on the same track here of basically we're basically talking about more of a shooter gallery. So we're seeing duck hunt have more variety of stuff to do. I'm on the same boat with you. To me though, I got a little weirder, and I decided to make it an open world game. So, so I wanted it to be where it's Ubisoft. That's my pick, and mainly because of the Far Cry series. So what I wanted was, is you can imagine the first scene of you driving up to your cabin, and you own this big acre of land and all this stuff, and your dog's with you. And if it's 2 players, you know, you got your friend with you, and then the other duck hunt dog, whatever the color it is or whatever. All right. So when you guys hit in this cabin, you guys go, you'll go to the first area and do the normal thing. Your dogs will go out, and you get to see. And I really want it to be very cartoonish. Like, I don't even care if the world's real, but the duck hunt dog is still the old school looking. But I want him to like just kind of sniff, and then he does that famous bark, and then jump into the bushes, and then the birds fly out. I want that. But what I wanted is it's almost like a golf course. So you're going in different sections, and you know, once you beat one area, you know, you might end up discovering another place. And they're just basically shooter galleries, you know, from the clay pigeons to you get on a boat, you know, to, you know, just out in the middle of the land. And then and you got all these different kind of ducks and whatnot. And then they can be a fun little side quest. You know, maybe this rare duck flew, and you got to go after that. You and your dog got to run and find this duck, and you got to, like, really focus and everything. But I just think it'd be funny just to fast travel. and this overland, like, where do you want to go? And it's like, well, let's go to the clay pigeon. Well, there's fast travel there. And just shoot up some stuff. And I thought it'd be just kind of funny just to see your own land and just go to these different places, and you and your dog just bonding. You know, you guys can be walking next area, and your dog just noticed something, and he goes after it, and you go after it too, you know? If you're on the boat, he's with you. And I like the part you saying the dog laughs at you. I want the dog laughs at you the whole time. You know? I think it'd be funny. Like, even the dog plays pranks on you. You know, like, maybe the dog is, like, running and you're following him, and he's like, oh, I got nothing. And then he laughs, you know? I think it'd just be a hilarious idea. And then you go back to the cabin, and, you know, you can relax there. You can change weapons. I mean, change guns if you want to. You can dress your dog up if you want to. You know? You can maybe some of these animals that the ducks that you kill, you know, you can mark them in your cabin, like, you know, mount them. You know, all this stuff. And, you know, it could be just a fun little game like that. Maybe you could add a little story to it. Maybe there's something more crazier in your cabin place than you think it is, and so you're trying to figure out. But it's all to do fun. And the only reason I picked Ubisoft, because Far Cry does a good job of that open world, and you're going places to places like that. And I think that'd be kind of cool. So, like, you know, you can get on the boat and go on the lake, and then you can deal with this. And if you want options, you know, you can go fishing. You can do all this other stuff. So I think it's more options. And I think it'd be funny with 2 players. You know, you're both on the boat, and then, like, you know, the ducks fly up, and you're shooting up at the same time, whoever gets it, you know. Yeah. So I thought that'd be more fun, just have a kind of open world travel around and stuff like that. So that's my pick.
Okay, so honestly, the idea of the same dog, but just color palette swaps.
Yeah.
It broke me, because for some reason I thought of the old Looney Tunes cartoon with the sheepdog and the Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
But it's all just a fact of them going to work.
Yeah.
So they have lunch breaks and everything. So they even take break together and eat lunch together. And then they'll go off a break, and then the dog will go right back to pounding the coyote.
Yes.
And just beating the crap out of him.
Yes.
And then then the shift will end, and they'll stop. And then they'll go clock out. And then the other sheepdog and the other coyote, the second shift guys, they come in. Like, hey, George. Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
They just,
yes.
I thought of that. When you said the palette swap dogs, I just thought of one dog, like the classic looking dog, and the other dog having like the exact same dog, but just a different color and a different collar on. I'm like, hey, Sam, George, let's go.
That can work.
And imagine you're 2-player. You both miss, and both dogs laugh at you.
Yeah, there you go. And that'd be funny too. Like you should let the dogs be dogs. So even if these dogs are like your owner, let them play around. That'd be hilarious. You know, they can wrestle and all that stuff just in the fly. Like, it's one of those things. Like, if you're sitting there for a minute and you're trying to figure out what to do, and your dog's sitting there waiting, I want your dog to be doing something. Like, he's either digging or is he rolling? You know. all that stuff. Hell, it'd be kind of funny if your dog went missing for a living. You got to go find your dog, and all you do is and all you hear is the laugh, and you got to figure out where the laugh is coming from or something like that. I don't know, but I think like that would be a pretty damn hilarious game for $20.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm down.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to our last pick, and then we'll wrap it up. So, the next pick is another NES what we mentioned, and it has to do with a little bit of martial arts. Kung Fu, baby. We're talking about Kung Fu, starring our guy, Thomas, which never thought his name was Thomas. His name is Thomas. Yeah. But they mentioned that Kung Fu is actually probably the first beat-em-up game, per se. And people don't know what Kung Fu is. It's basically a 2D game where you're going from 5 levels in this giant temple, from right to left, actually. Mm-hmm. And then it goes left to right sometimes. But you're basically kicking your way through every enemy coming towards you, followed by a boss, which you have to learn his pattern. That's it. Plain and simple. And you're there to rescue your girlfriend, Sylvia, from Mr. X. You know Mr. X, the same enemy that's in Streets of Rage and every other beat-em-up game. And so, I went crazy with this game because I think, like, bump the old school way. I want to bring this flesh out to present. I want some kick-ass karate game. We don't have a lot of karate games. We really don't. You got like enemies that can do badass like martial art moves and stuff like that, but not a karate guy. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like I can't think of one. I mean, Jackie Chan already did his moments in the old school games. You don't have a Jackie Chan game now. You know, the Meals on Wheels and all that stuff. And then Jet Li did his game, Rise the Hero, which it was terrible because, you know, everything was like function on a joystick. That was weird. Mm-hmm. That was a weird game. But Kung Fu. I like this game. This game kicked my butt, especially the third fight where you go against this big black boxer that can punch you like in 2 hits, and it sucked. It sucked bad. And the thing about that game is when you get your butt kicked, the way you get hit sounds like a Looney Tune getting hit by a mallet. You know, it's like, bing! You know, it's so weird. You have to replay the game again. I always remember that because I always died a lot. But I love the fact that he would yell every time he hit. He's like, ha, 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 ha. You know, like when he does the ground kick and up kick. Man, I don't know if you remember that or not. But yeah. And it's so funny because when these guys get kicked, they don't fall backwards. They don't fall forward. They fall off like this temple doesn't have walls, so they like fall off the side. It's so weird. But you know, it's a challenge game. So what I wanted to do with this game is I took this to the extreme. So what I did is the story is Thomas was he was basically in a tournament at his dojo, and a group of people came in and bum rushed it and killed their master and stole their girlfriend. So him and his buddies go save their dojo, and the dojo is set in this big city, and it's one of those like if you know back in old school movies, sometimes they have these temple homes. There are just a bunch of homes, but it's like taking a big portion of the land. That's what I wanted. So in the Kung Fu, there was 5. I wanted to do 7 temples, and basically you're making your way to each temple instead of doing the level temple like Game of Death, which Game of Death I think is a big influence to this game, definitely with Bruce Lee, and that's what I kind of wanted to go with. Which, you know, you're fighting your way to each of these bosses, and you have to learn their strategy when you get to these bosses. And I want the bosses to be memorable to the point where, like, you know, you have to use different techniques. Like, if you've seen Game of Death, when Bruce Lee was fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he was this tall guy, blind, and Bruce Lee had to use the light to blind him so he can win this fight. And I think I wanted that for that, instead of just going up trying to kick his ass all the time. Like, maybe you got to think a little bit outside the box. I don't care if like it's one mode is all about button pressing at the right time. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But what I wanted though is each boss you beat, you get some new ability or some weapon that you can carry to the next fight, because the next level is going to get harder and harder, and they might have weapons. So I might say, hey, maybe you get weapons from there, or you beat up a person, you can pick up that weapon and use it for a little bit. I don't care. But I wanted this game to be a little bit challenging. I really want like a skill tree of you learning all these martial arts and everything like that. I want some badass kick. Like I want the ridiculous kick where you kick somebody in the stomach and somehow you can lift their body up and throw them against the wall. I don't care. I just want to have fun with it. You know, flying kicks, and you can have the yell. You're like, ha ha! I don't care. You can do all you want. All right, you can do all that stuff. I think it'd be hilarious. Just going through each area of this big ass resident home estate of 7 temples as you're making your way up to Mr. X. And when I thought of this, it reminded me of the first level of Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox / Sigma for the PS3. If you ever played Ninja Gaiden, you know the first area you're going to the temple and you're going to the woods. And for the listeners, there's a lot. These ninjas come out of everywhere, like they're flip walls and doors. I want that for Kung Fu. So I want Koei Tecmo to do this game because Koei Tecmo is really good at making these moment-to-moments really awesome and making these moments amazing with the strikes. Like in Ninja Gaiden, the part where if you press the button at the right time, you could do a quick slash and kill them in 2 seconds and stuff like that. I want that for Thomas, and I want him to like really, really come up with some badass moves. Even like the counter attacks. Counters are very important. You need the counters and stuff like that. But I just want these guys to just go all crazy on Thomas, and Thomas has to fight his way out. So yeah, that's as simple as what I want for Kung Fu. Yeah, so
that's awesome. That is awesome. What's funny is that for a split second, I thought we were going to have a similar idea.
I thought so too.
And then we didn't. You definitely went your own way with it because I also am going pretty cartoony.
Okay.
For this, just like with Duck Hunt. So when you sent me Kung Fu, and I'm like, okay, I remember playing Kung Fu, and that's, it's pretty basic. So what would I do with it? And the next game I thought of, I almost thought you were going to say it, but Jackie Chan Stuntmaster. You remember that game?
Yeah.
Okay, so that game was on that game was on the PS1, and it's kind of like it's a beat 'em up / platformer kind of deal, and it's typical kind of Jackie Chan, not acting in a movie. It's like kind of bad acting and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, so if I were going to do something like that, but not that, I don't want just that palette swap. No, I want style, in that style of graphics, cartoony, not as serious, a little bit more fun. And I'm like, all right. So I started looking up who made Jackie Chan Stuntmaster, and they no longer exist. They actually went defunct. And but the parent company who owned that group are still around, in Activision. Now they owned them, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay. So stylized, what would I go for? And I'm like, all right. You know what I'm gonna do? You know what? Since they own this, I'm going to go with these guys and see what they could do with it, because the gameplay that I'm going to go for is a beat 'em up, similar to like you said, where you get some new moves and do some cool stuff. Maybe use some platforming, to get around, especially in some of the Jackie Chan movies where he's like jumping from building to building, on the fire escapes, or jumping onto those hovercrafts and breaking his foot and all that crazy. All that crazy kind of weird little into the move stuff. So maybe you could do some button quick time things to get through stuff and be a little bit more smooth. But
traps.
Then you're kind of
basically there's traps.
Yes, yeah. There's that one fight scene in one of the movies where he jumps over and under a pinball machine.
Was that Rumble in the Bronx?
I think it was where the dude pushes the pinball machine back, and he's supposed to go underneath it. And I remember in one of the outtakes, he got stuck and it hit his head. And he's like, boom! Right? The pinball machine met head, and his head met wall. And he's like, ah! Yeah. Because back then Jackie Chan did all his own stunts, man. He did all that stuff himself because he put the work into that and hurt his body for that. But I really didn't think too much into the story.
There's no story. There's no story. It's a rescue mission.
I mean, I mean, yeah, go rescue your girlfriend and that kind of stuff. But I thought of some of the crazy kind of like cool stuff, like maybe ideas like running along the walls to do like wall kicks and using your environment, and so the platforming would kind of play into it, and it would be kind of goofy and silly. So I thought of the team Toys for Bob. They just did Crash Bandicoot 4.
It's
and I
about
thought,
time. Yeah.
And
Okay.
yes, and because the same team that did Stuntmaster would go on to do some Crash Bandicoot games, and I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but because they did their, the new Crash stuff and they did some platforming and it's silly, they could take the same mindset, put it in a different environment, and more of a fighter or a beat 'em up style, and then go that direction with it and have a lot of fun with it. Kind of like what you said, you go to different temples, or maybe you start in the city, just like I said, and you're going around and you got to jump from building to building and do some crazy stuff, and then you're fighting dudes all along the way, and then just like you said, like, oh, I'm an old rival of my master, he's back. So like we actually got to go all the way back to like go overseas, and so you fly over there, and then you're like in the old ancient temples and stuff like that. I just think it'd be so fun, and you just have so much fun with it and be silly.
I like the idea of the environment, using environment to fight. I should have thought of that, because when you thought Jackie Chan's used a lot of environments to fight. I like that, especially like Rumble in the Bronx again, like when he used a refrigerator to like knock out people, all that kind of stuff. I really like that. So I definitely would add that feature in there, and the fact that both of our ideas sound way better than the actual sequel of Kung Fu 2. There was a Kung Fu 2, and he was a fighter, but he was taking care of people doing drugs in the street. I'm like, all right. No. Okay, so, but yeah, I think our ideas are a lot better than that. My question for you is, how would you want your, like, the bosses kind of to be like, and I don't think I really broke down how I want the bosses to be, but you notice like the variety of the bosses, one uses a boomerang. I think he's the only one that does. I was wondering, like, would you really do more of moment to moment, or would you have them do special weapon fight? Like, what idea would make it more fun for you to deal with these bosses instead of going up and just kicking them?
Well, no, because you want to do something else other than just going up there and kicking and button mashing or doing some of the moves.
I actually, if I can volunteer one thing, I like the idea that you put with the platforming. How cool would that be is if you're walking in the middle of the room with your enemy and all the floor dropped except where you two are standing is all spikes, and it's like moment to moment, like one bad move will ruin it all. So it's more like a counter. Like you have to counter him everything he does until you get the right moment. Like that might be something interesting, for example.
How cool would it be if it wasn't just your two platforms, you had other platforms, and you had to like run, and you had to like jump, do like a little double jump, run along the wall, jump and land on this other platform.
Yeah.
And then like you would have to like slowly whittle away, and then he would be moving around, but you would try to hit him. But if you stayed and tried to fight too much, he could knock you down and into the spikes, because you would have a very limited space where you could actually get. So you'd have to almost like get in and kick him and then get out, Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, you're constantly revolving, and maybe you can also have a changeable environment too, where some of the places you were able to go, some of the pillars or whatever, they're dropping or they're falling, or so then you're becoming more limited in scope.
Yeah. Or you can have a trap fight. Like if you're in a room and if you step on the wrong button, a trap will come up. So you have to fight carefully. Or if you accidentally land it, you got to get out of the way right at the right time. The traps come. Like it could be like one of those bamboo spikes that come out of the wall or something. I don't know.
Sure.
I thought that'd be
another idea, kind of like your Kareem fight that you were talking about using the light. As you go along in the game, and you do utilize different items and objects, like a refrigerator or a ladder or just whatever, and you're using them to like not only move around and be quicker, like how he would like slide into the ladder and do all this weird stuff and shove it. Maybe the big guy who's your kicks, you can't hit him, but like maybe like there's certain things that you can utilize the environment for to like hurt him and stun him.
Yeah.
Where your physical attacks don't hurt this guy. So you've got to use other objects to inflict that damage, or at least inflict some damage to be able to where you can go up and start unleashing on him because his guard is just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And if he hits you hard, and you're just going to have a bad time.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely I would like the developers who ever make this game to really make sure the boss fight is more memorable than anything, because other than that, to get the point A to point B every single time, you know, it's basically going to be the same. You're going room to room kicking butt until you hit that boss. So make the boss moments really memorable that you want to go back and like replay those moments again.
Well, see, and then utilizing the environment, the game would be set up in a way to where it would have set you up for that, to where you already kind of know how to do that. Like in certain levels with common enemies, and you're encouraged, hey, try this out, do this, you know, do that. That way, you know, it sets you up, kind of tutorializes that for you before you even get to the boss, where now you're there and you're like, oh, now I have to do this. So maybe if you're a gamer like, that's kind of too hard, I don't want to do that, I just want to beat people up. Now you're kind of forced to do it. So now it kind of makes you to where it uses another part of your brain, that where some players, when you have, you know, freedom to play however you want, the boss fights will force you to adapt into these different play styles, whether you're using environment or weapons or doing the jump around and hitting quick type deal. Whereas maybe you would just be a tank before that, and you know, nothing can slow you down. But this dude in this situation, you cannot do that with.
Now, another option you can do too is if you played Yakuza, especially the first one, or the remastered one, or remake really, the Kwame one. He had crap, I forgot his name. I forgot the main character's name is, but he basically had 4 different moves that you could switch on the fly. So, you know, he has like dragon stance, you know, different stance, and you can switch them, and they give you brand new fighting button moves that you can do. Maybe that's an option there. So, you know, you learn all these different styles, and you could maybe when you fight the boss, maybe that style's not working. Maybe I should switch more of a brawler. Maybe I should switch more of, you know, quicker. Maybe I should switch more to, you know, I don't know. Like switching styles on the fly would be pretty cool too for him, especially like if he beats them, and then he might adapt a cool move that can add to his repertoire of different stance that he does. So
maybe as you go along the game, you can meet different people, different masters of different styles.
Yeah.
That you can learn these techniques from, or stances from.
Yeah.
Because that kind of reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima. If you played that this year, you have different sword stances. So different ones will be good for different enemies, and you have different moves and things that you can unlock in those stances. So if you learn the stance, that's your gateway into that style, and it definitely gives the player some freedom to be like, well, you know, this stance is good. I'm really more into this, so I'm gonna focus more of my level up into this style. But I gotta have some like a little bit over here too, just in case I need it.
I think that'd be so badass. Like if that was in the game, how you switch, how, like, you know, how your stance changes on the fly, and just seeing how cool that is. Like, you're in this stance, and when you change it, for people, I'm just having my hands up, but like right when you're like about to change stance, he goes like, it just goes right into the next motion. That'd be just so cool to watch. Because like, I don't know why I would get hyped if I got my ass kicked, and I'm like, all right, it's time to get serious, and then you switch to the mode. Let's do this. Like, I don't know. This is weird for me. I just like goofy things like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential they can do to bring this game back in a cool way. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know who owns that. I don't know who's running it, but a spiritual successor to that would even be better for that moment, and that'd be really, really cool.
So I read, this is just a fun little tidbit of fact, the game was produced by Takashi Nishiyama.
Okay.
And he later designed the original Street Fighter at Capcom before leaving to run SNK's video game development division, creating Fatal Fury and Samurai Showdown.
Okay.
So I thought that was really neat that like all of that harkens back to the original Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense if you think about the original Street Fighter. You can see a little bit of where that came from here.
You know, it's funny. That makes me think that weirdly enough, Kung Fu's character himself spiritually has jumped to Street Fighter with the guy that looks like Bruce Lee, and then that jumps into every other game that spiritually, I don't know, like Law from like Tekken. I think it's Law.
Yeah.
Maybe he's spiritual successor to him. I don't know. It's just weird because even though they're kind of spiritual to Bruce Lee, I still do get a little bit of Thomas in there, sort of way. because he was the first martial artist in the video game realm, I guess. I don't know. So
One of, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's our picks for this episode: Duck Hunt and Kung Fu. And actually, with that, I think that's it. Really simple for us, real simple, in and out. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, man. I just want to thank everybody out there who's listened to the show here. It's been almost a year, kind of since we started, and it's been really fun to sit down here with you once a month to talk about some really cool games. We've had some really cool picks over that time, and we have many more to come. And the next episode is going to be really neat. It's going to be more themed, that we've talked about. So that's going to be, just like when we did Star Wars, it's going to be all games in a certain sect. Mm-hmm. And then we have plenty of more. Like, we're just getting started.
Right. But with that, I want to thank everybody for listening to this particular episode. Remember, we are part of the In-Game Boss program and that we're gaming other variety shows. So definitely check out our shows on Facebook and Twitter and all the listening spots that you can find us on: Podbean, CastBox, Apple Podcasts, and all that kind of stuff. Remember, this is a monthly show. We try to post it at the last Monday of each month. And don't forget, we are also on YouTube, so you can definitely check out that show on the YouTube through the In-Game Boss program. And then, Brandon, where can they find about your show and such?
The Game Addicts podcast is on podcast services around the globe. If we're not there, if not on your platform of choice, please let me know. Hit me an email or at gameaddictspodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on social medias at Game Addicts Play. Let me know. And let me know what you think of the show, too. That's always good to hear from you guys. You can always check out gameaddictspodcast.com. And you can see the affiliate links over there, as well as links to the In-Game Boss program, as well as the Journey into Comics network, where I also host the Journey into Comics podcast with my buddy Nate Phillips and Tyler McLaughlin. We have a good old grand time over there talking about some cool nerd stuff.
Awesome.
And yeah, so
awesome.
Please do.
And then also on our YouTube page, you can definitely check out 2 other shows that we do. The Cabinet Sessions, where me and my buddy Jerron, he's also my co-host of the In-Game Boss podcast, and we play a bunch of arcade games. And then I have my Buddy Up gaming that I do with my buddy Jerome. We just play a bunch of co-op games, so definitely check us out there and whatnot. And as you listen to the show, think about some games that you would like to comment and tell us to go through, because we'll be happy, to do some requests. Give us more of a challenge. That's the goal of the show. Our goal is to challenge ourselves and see what we come back with. So I'm very excited. But with that, thank y'all so much, and we will catch you on our next showcase.